Ready?
It says we're live now, so introduce us, Adam.
Yeah, exactly right. Good evening. OCD week. Now, I'm glad I don't have technical issues like I did this afternoon. Thank God. But yeah, I thought I'd do a bit of a video. Well, Mike did the video, and obviously he's let me honour of coming on, and he specialises in OCD. He offers the support to people with OCD, and here he is. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well, Adam. I wanna give a great big fat disclaimer and say that I don't specialize in OCD. I'm an advocate for OCD and their related disorders, especially. None of what we're going to be talking about tonight should be misconstrued as any kind of clinical information or professional advice. This is just simply information that we've gathered from research and from lived experience of having it. And a lot of misconceptions out there about exactly what it is, and that's fine. That's why we're here tonight. And God bless Adam. It's almost 10:30 his time over in the UK, and we're on a 5-hour time gap. But Adam, thank you so much for all your advocacy and all your work, everything that you do, and it's not overlooked, and it's very appreciated.
Thank you. I try and do my best. Obviously, I know there's people out there who are more informative than me, but I just do what I can, just like you. Now, obviously, with OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, now obviously it doesn't get spoken about enough. It does not. And when we are, do I say, celebrating, collaborating, I don't know. I don't know the exact word we can use because there's a wide range.
I think it's both. Let's
do it. Let's go for the both. We need to spread that awareness about OCD and do what we can to offer that support to people who obviously have got that anxiety to actually speak about it, because we've all got a story and people are just holding on to that stigma for far too long, and it's time to let go.
And I think it's important what you said is that, you know, we do all have a story. Every person regardless of a psychiatric disorder or not, everybody, no matter who it is, we all have stories, and they're all valid stories. But I mean, in this platform specifically, we are talking about psychiatric disorders, mental health conditions, and so I don't want to try to invalidate anybody's story that doesn't have something, because we all have things.
Yeah.
So were there any particular questions, or do you want me to do any sort of introduction, or?
Let's just go off you, because obviously you're more informative about OCD than I am, and I'm still in that learning curve.
Okay. Well, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Mike Sizemore, and I was diagnosed with OCD when I was 13, and I'm 36 now, and it has not been an easy road, but I'm glad to say, thank God, that I'm doing much better than I ever thought I was going to be able to do. I've got a wonderful support system. I've got coworkers who believe in me. supervisors who believe in me, family that is supportive, and I mean, I would like to say that if I could change it all, I would, but I don't know if I would, because I really think that it was meant to be.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just sharing this video because I believe this message does need to get out there. And obviously, like, there's a wide range of symptoms when it comes to OCD, and obviously, I know there's a difference between likes of the OCD you have to the OCD other people have, like trainings where they can only have just showing the labels from, I don't know, a tin of baked beans or something. And obviously, I keep being told off my partner that I've got OCD because for many, many years, and next to I always have it like the kettle, and then it has to be tea, sugar, then coffee. I don't think that's OCD. I don't know. But I've been like that for
So
years.
you bring up a good, I think, like the first question, it sounds like would be like, well, what is OCD and what is the difference between an actual diagnosis versus a quirk or a personal preference or an idiosyncrasy or something like that. So everybody, you're right, everybody has little things that they like to do, little things that, you know, just work with them. You know, so like what you were explaining about needing the coffee and tea lined up, and I mean, lots of us, I think we'd like to have that control in certain areas. With OCD, it's not that there's different kinds of OCD. It's all one thing, but it shows up in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And it's all about actually what the person is most vulnerable to, what they really hold most dear in their lives. That is going to be the area where OCD wants to make its nest. And so somebody you know, somebody who is really, really responsible might have you know, a lot of responsibility put on themselves, like to a big level. And somebody who you know, somebody who is afraid of, you know, I mean, keeping their family safe at night in their house might have issues with locking the door. You know, because they're logical reasons, they're logical things, they just get blown out to an illogical proportion. And and then that's really basically the functions of the behaviors, and they're sort of what drive the condition there. They're obsessive. OCD is kind of defined by obsessive, intrusive thoughts that get kind of stuck on repeat in a person's head, and they're often going to come with like a incredibly like shocking sensation, like severe anxiety, sort of an overwhelming feeling that is going to be reduced. The anxiety is going to be reduced by whatever kind of behavior that they do to make it better. Just to sort of break that down, I walk away from my door in the morning. I'm afraid, oh my gosh, you know, my family's inside sleeping still. What if I didn't lock the door? And then some of those intrusive thoughts that might come is, you know, what if somebody gets in and tries to attack my family, and then it's going to be all my fault, and I can't let that happen. So in order to not let that happen, I have to check the door again.
Yeah.
And then I'll feel better. And that actually works. That those sorts of things actually do relieve the anxiety temporarily. However, that's sort of the trap that OCD lays down, is because the more that you do that, the more you're going to doubt yourself. And then the more that you doubt yourself, the more that you do that. So it becomes a big cycle. And the more that you complete that cycle, the stronger that the disorder becomes, and the more over time unmanageable your life becomes.
Absolutely. Like, obviously, I've just gone onto the OCD UK, and I know you're not in the UK, but it says here on the website, we're here for the estimated 750,000 people are currently living and affected by obsessive compulsive disorder in the UK.
Yeah, I think the estimate worldwide is somewhere around like 2.8 billion.
Yeah.
So it's actually pretty common. I think some of the misunderstandings about it come from the media. About you see a lot on there on on TV and movies where where it's actually a good thing, or it's nice to have everything neat and all these sorts of things like that. But it's actually if the media, I mean, if they had an accurate portrayal of what it was, and it can absolutely take over your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally sympathise with that. Now, obviously, I'm just going to explain what OCD is to people, for people that actually do not know what it is. Now, obsessive compulsive disorder is a common, chronic, and long lasting disorder in which a person has uncontrollable, recurring thoughts, or otherwise known as obsessions, and or behaviors, also known as compulsions, that he or she feels the urge to repeat over and over.
Right, yeah, and that is an accurate diagnosis. I mean, that is an accurate description. What I would say is, especially with the obsessional part, the thought part, is there's part in something happens in the brain, and I don't know exactly what it is. Something happens in the brain that gets these thoughts stuck on repeat. And normally the way that the OCD cycle sort of plays out in real life to get someone to do that compulsive behavior is it just goes round and round and round and round and back over again. I mean, and these thought cycles can last for hours. And so basically the person, out of desperation, feels compelled to do whatever behavior the OCD is trying to get them to do.
Yeah.
And then the hard part is because then the more often they do it, then the more stuck they are. So you might ask yourself, how do you break this cycle? And you break this cycle through a therapy that's done through by a trained therapist, a clinician, a psychologist, a social worker, a marriage and family therapist, whoever's trained in the kind of cognitive behavioral therapy that is specialized to treat OCD, which is called exposure and response prevention.
Mm-hmm.
They also it also gets treated with different kinds of medications, but that's a different thing. But and a lot of times they're used together. But real briefly about exposure and response prevention, it is basically, it's exposure. You're going to do what scares you, what the OCD is trying to make you afraid of. And then response prevention, you're going to not do your rituals. So what that might mean in real life would be just to use like contamination for a real common, easy to explain example. Somebody that's afraid, my hands are dirty, I have to wash my hands. While there's people that, that have, taken the top layer of skin off their hands from washing rituals and things like that. So, I mean, it can really get in the way. But so that might be, I'm going to touch the floor. Somebody just walked across the floor. I don't know what's on their shoes. I'm going to touch the floor. I'm going to touch it to my face, and I'm not going to wash my hands. Now what usually happens in that situation is a person, the anxiety rises and rises and rises and rises, saying, you know, because the OCD is trying to get you to wash your hands. And the job of ERP, or we call it ERP, exposure and response prevention, the job of ERP is not to get rid of anxiety. The job of ERP is to let anxiety rise and fall on its own. So it's going to get really, really, really high. But then it's going to start to gradually go down again, and then you'll learn that you can handle that. And so that's a lot of how the therapy works. And so it's repetitious over and over again. A lot of times therapists build a hierarchy of fears. You know, you're going to start here and you're going to work your way up, because you don't want to start too high. So that's a lot about the therapy. It was actually back in the 70s, late 70s, that they came up with the therapy. Dr. Edna Foa from Pennsylvania pretty much pioneered that therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, nobody's commented yet, so we do urge people to comment, because obviously, if that's what it is, it's probably anxiety that's stopping people from actually speaking out. But obviously, there's no worry, there's no judgmental here, and it's when people are ready. But I know.
Hey, Adam, when you lean away, your mic cuts out.
Right, is that better?
Yeah.
Is that better? Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Stacey from the OCD group. She's tuned in now.
Oh, cool.
So,
well, hi, Stacey.
You know, I'll actually put the phone there. And
But
yeah, there you go.
Definitely, I mean, some of the therapists that have been most influential in my life, I gotta give a big shout out to my therapist in Cleveland, Ohio, Dr. Jonah Lakin. He was an absolute godsend. He recently released a book that and I bought a copy of that. Another therapist that's really, so many people have educated and helped me. Another really influential therapist that is Dr. Jonathan Grayson from California, and he's an expert in OCD as well, and he's been working with OCD for about 40 years. And so these people were really, really influential. Dr. Stephen Phillipson from New York City. He's another world-class expert. And so I mean, it can show up in lots of different ways. It can show up not just in you know, you normally hear about, you know, checking doors, stoves, faucet handles, whatever. You normally hear about contamination, thinking, you know, I'm afraid my hands are dirty. I'm afraid I'm going to get sick. So I have to wash my hands. And then that just reinforces the fear that I'm going to get sick. And lesser common, they're called subtypes that you don't hear about so much. There's one called hit and run OCD, which is basically someone who's driving down the road, they hit a pothole. Say they looked out their left window, and then at the same time they hit a pothole, and then, you know, they jerk their eyes back onto the road again. And so somebody with hit and run OCD might think, oh my goodness, did I just hit somebody? And then they might feel compelled to, you know, I need to make sure I didn't hit anybody. So I need to go back around the block to make sure I didn't hit anybody with my car. So then they might do that. And then it might be, well, what if they got up and left? So you see this persistent kind of doubt that kind of grows as you go.
Yeah.
And then sometimes this takes people hours to get places, because they feel they don't want to be responsible for having hit somebody. They don't want, and then, you know, all the anxiety and all the guilt kind of just piles on. Another common, pretty common one that I've read about is called just right OCD. Now, basically, that's a physical sensation that the person gets. You know, if they're doing a task, whatever, they can't move on till they feel just right.
Yeah.
Till they feel just sort of so. You know, and that can get in the way in a lot of ways. Magical thinking, which is common in OCD also, which is basically like, you know, you've heard these things all your life, you know, step on a crack, break your mother's back, knock on wood, and you know, don't walk under a ladder or wherever like that. So with that kind, it might be, I have to knock on wood. You know, somebody said knocking on wood is good luck one time. So I really love my parents. So I have to knock on wood so that my parents stay safe.
Yeah.
Now, there's no logical connection there, really. You know, there's your parents staying safe and you knocking on wood are independent of each other.
Yeah.
But if I knock on wood, then I've done that. Then that means my parents will be safe. And then you get the doubt that comes up. That's, you know, but what if you didn't knock on it hard enough? Shouldn't you knock on it again? You know, and then that's just gonna create one of these cycles.
Yeah, it is. Just a couple of things. Stacey, can you share this live into the OCD group? Because I seem to can't find it on Facebook. Don't know why. And another one is Stacey's actually commented, so many themes, one not worse than the other, all treated the same way. And acceptance therapy.
Yeah, acceptance and commitment therapy is another therapy that's used right alongside exposure and response prevention. It works very well. That's more your mindfulness based kind of therapy. One thing I will say before, I definitely want to get this out before I get off the feed here. The core, what Dr. Grayson explains a lot, which is, like I said, he's just awesome. But OCD thrives on 100% certainty. 99 is not good enough. 99.9 is not good enough. 99.99 is not good enough. It has to be 100%. So if I'm washing my hands, I need to make sure they're 100% clean. And then as soon as I step away from the sink, I'm going to doubt that I washed them well enough.
Yeah.
If I check the door when I leave the house, you know, did I really check it enough? Maybe I twisted the handle 80% of the way, not 100% of the way, and then that could still be a risk.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be that need to know, that need for 100% certainty in OCD.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you.
That's sort of that is the food for OCD.
Yeah. Absolutely. Totally agree with you. And yeah. So what we'll do is we'll end that. And do I say thanks for coming on or thanks for bringing me on?
You don't have to thank me, Adam. It was my pleasure. And I just thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you for what you do.
Thanks, Adam. It really is. It's an unfortunate thing. It's hard to find providers that do that kind of therapy. They're not as readily accessible as they should be.
No.
But but hey, it's a work in progress like everything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We just got to keep going. Stand tall and stay strong.
Thanks, Adam. It was awesome to talk to you.
Yeah, you too, brother.
If anybody needs any information, if you're looking for any professional information about where to find a provider, or just more information about it, more information about how to get involved, if you need any questions answered from a professional organization, I would encourage you to go to www.iocdf.org. That's the International OCD Foundation, or www.peaceofmind.com, and then that's the Peace of Mind Foundation. They're a nonprofit that's ran out of Texas. Very knowledgeable people, ran by Dr. Liz Mackingvale, and they've recently partnered with the IOCDF. So both really
Brilliant.
good.
Brilliant. Anyway, cheers for that.
Thanks, Adam.
You're welcome.